Fandom Ultra 2000!
Hello everyone and welcome to Fandom Ultra 2000. I'm your host Stephen White, and with me on our maiden voyage is George. Put on your Sunday pants, Willard.
Hey, I'm George. Put on your Sunday pants, Willard. It's a pleasure to meet you guys.
Yes, you may know us from other shows that we happen to do together, but we decided to do a little podcast where we talk a little geek and nerd talk, talking about the stuff that we love to get all excited for, whether it be comic books, movies, and whatever.
Stuff we hate to love, stuff we love to hate.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of it out there. The one thing I wish we could talk about right now, but I still feel like it's early days, plus you haven't seen it, is Avengers Infinity War.
I haven't. I want to so bad. But
You really need to. I feel like that if I was going to sit here and talk to you about it, I just couldn't. You know what I mean? Like there are things I want to tell you, but I even feel like just the slightest little information is spoilerish,
yes.
And it's just I don't want to take that away from you.
Well, I appreciate that.
I do. Well, I would hope so. I mean, I wish other people would have that kind of same common courtesy when talking, because even when I walked out of the theater, I wanted to talk to Katrina about it.
But you're passing people who haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. So I was just like, just bite my tongue until I get into the car, and then I will talk about it. But until then, I can't.
Yeah, my wife doesn't get that. She'll be walking out, she'll be like, George. And I'm just like, nope. And then you get in the car, and I'm like, oh my God, that movie!
It's like that scene on The Simpsons. I don't know if you remember that. There was a flashback where Homer and Marge went to go see The Empire Strikes Back, and Homer was like, wow, what an ending! Who would have known that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father? And somebody was like,
spoilers!
Dude!
Spoilers! God.
I'm sorry. Fair warning, I'll try to say spoilers. But I would hope everybody knows that by now. I would hope.
We should just make that part of the opening. We're like, hey guys, welcome to Fandom Ultra 2000. Spoilers ahead.
Yes. So if we will try to be spoiler free for the most part. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about Infinity War. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I want to. I want to have a conversation about it. But when you get to see it, we'll come back and we'll actually talk about it.
Yes, definitely.
Because there's a lot to talk about, and I don't want to say anything. I don't want you to go in as fresh as you possibly are right now.
Yes.
You know, if you know absolutely nothing outside of whatever trailers have shown you, I even feel, and I will even say this, and this could be considered spoilerish, but I feel like it's just preparing you. The trailers are very misleading.
Oh, I'm sure. I've already assumed as much.
I mean, we've seen, I think in the past when they did Civil War, they omitted Spider-Man out of every scene. There were scenes in there that, especially one in particular, and again, I won't say which one, but there was one scene in particular that I felt like was the pinnacle of the shots that they would always show in the trailers. You know what I mean?
You want to talk about this so bad.
I do. But I'm saying it like this. It could be any scene in the world, but if you were watching one of the trailers, there's one scene that they show all the time, and I feel like it became the pinnacle of that, like the big scene, like you're expecting that scene in the movie. It never happens.
Really?
And what's so key about that is there's a character in that scene that literally does not show up for basically the entire movie.
Wow. I'm assuming you're talking about Captain America.
I'm not.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm not going to say any more than that.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen the movie, take that as you will. But the trailers have been very misleading, especially for one character that I expected to see. I really did.
I bet it's Thanos. I bet you don't see Thanos until the very end of the movie.
Not at all. But I'm not going to say the character never shows up in the movie. I'm just saying he doesn't show up as much as you would
prominently.
think. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I'm not saying I was disappointed because, again, it there's a reason. That's all I'll say. But I'm going to have to get off the topic, otherwise I'm going to be talking about it. I want to talk about it so bad. Anyway, how about this? Did you happen to see the new Venom trailer?
I have not seen the newest one.
Okay, well, that's something we're gonna have to do after.
We're gonna have to fix this, aren't we?
Because
we should start watching this stuff before we start the podcast in the future.
It's fine.
Because I work a lot.
Okay, well, for the record, did you ever see the original Venom trailer?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and it was just
it looked awesome. Yeah,
but there was nothing. There was no Venom.
There wasn't.
There was no Venom.
I kept waiting for Venom to show up in his full Venom suit, and you see the little stringy. I don't even know what to call it, like fungus mold kind of growing, but you never see.
No. They rectified this.
Venom.
I'll just say that.
Oh, that's good.
So, granted, you don't get to see him in full
Venom
the entire time, but I mean, the last shot is Venom. I'll say that. Yeah. So at least you get to see him. You're like, oh, cool.
I get to see, there's Venom in the Venom trailer.
Yay! Exactly. I think that was the issue that a lot of people had. Is like, where's Venom?
Where's Venom in the Venom?
I mean, you're promoting this movie. Where's your title character?
Right.
Now, one interesting element to this, and anybody, this could be considered spoilers, so just be warned. But he was not prominent in the trailer. But there's rumors going around that Woody Harrelson is in the movie.
Really?
He was not seen. The rumor has it that he's playing Cletus Cassidy. And if you are familiar with the comics, that is Carnage.
Huh.
I think that would be perfect.
That would kind of be awesome.
Yeah. So if they're omitting him, I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I would love to have that reveal in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge Carnage fan.
But to introduce Carnage in the first Venom movie, that just seems a little...
Well, I think...
Well, the first Venom movie without Spider-Man.
Sure.
I mean,
but
there's a Venom movie without Spider-Man.
There's even rumors that Spider-Man may actually show up. Really? I'm not going to swear to that. Don't quote me on that. This is a grain of salt rumor that Tom Holland has actually been spotted filming a cameo.
All right, guys, you heard it here officially. Steven just said that Spider-Man's going to be in the Venom movie.
I did not say that. I did not say that. Tom Holland may, Peter Parker may, but not Spider-Man. I didn't say that. Anyway, but no, I mean, I think as far as kind of what you were saying, odd that Carnage would be showing up. The idea is, I mean, we've seen in a lot of these superhero movies, you always have the hero fighting some version of themselves. I mean, it was prominent in Iron Man. Iron Man fought Ironmonger in the very first movie.
Yeah.
Ant-Man fought, who was it, Yellow Jacket in Ant-Man. And I'm sure you could kind of go on. And I mean, to some degree, you could say that Thor and Loki, they're both gods.
No.
Captain America fought Red Skull, which was a super soldier on the Nazi side.
That's a good point, yeah.
So, I mean, you could argue that point. I get it. So, him fighting another symbiote, it's not bad.
Like, one thing I can't tell from the trailers is he supposed to be the villain or the hero, or is there just one at all?
No, that was actually one of the things they corrected in the new trailer, is they actually kind of gave you an idea of what the story was.
Gotcha.
Other than just like,
here's random shots of what could be Venom.
Yeah. So they actually kind of gave you a story trailer to where you could understand that, he's a reporter. Mm-hmm. He's, there was a crash of some kind where some alien... something or other happened, and then they find the symbiotes lurking about somewhere. They capture them. This company, I can't remember what they were called, the Life Foundation, I think is what it was.
Right.
And this is actually, from what I know, is based on the Lethal Protector limited series they did of Venom.
Oh, really?
So it's like kind of loosely based on that. Anyway, they're finding test subjects who are going to be subjected to the symbiotes, which in turn would create other symbiotes. And in Lethal Protector, there were at least 5 others that were spawns of Venom. Yeah. But again, I would assume they're being sampled. I guess you're ripping a piece of that off, putting it on this person, seeing how it reacts.
Is that how they're going to be explaining away the Venom suit being evil? Or crazy?
Yeah.
Because I know in the comic books, like in the Guardians, they actually land on the Venom planet.
Yeah.
And they're like supposed to be universal protectors.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how they're explaining away like the experiments that have been done on it? Just drive it crazy?
Probably, because kind of what you were saying in the Guardians of the Galaxy, if you don't know, the Venom symbiote which landed on Spider-Man and then found its way onto Eddie Brock and actually a few other people like Matt Gargan, who was the Scorpion.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
He wound up on Flash Thompson, who, if you are unfamiliar, he's actually a Spider-Man bully, but they actually became friends as time went on or whatever. Yeah. He became like a space knight, I think is what they called him, Venom Space Knight. He was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They wound up on the Clintar planet. I don't know if it had a different name, but I can't remember. But that's the race that they are. They're Clintars.
Yeah.
And they noticed that the symbiote was kind of tainted, so to speak, like it was mad.
Yeah.
So they purified it for Flash Thompson, and he was actually able to control it. So they were like one and the same. There was a better bond between them.
A better symbiosis, if you will.
Correct. So if I've actually been reading about this, so I can kind of go into the comic territory.
Nice.
When the Guardians came back to Earth when Civil War II was going on, and somehow Flash Thompson lost the symbiote. I cannot remember. It was in issue 150 of Venom, which, by the way, if you don't know, Marvel went back to their original number.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Nice.
This is part of their whole legacy program.
Cool.
So he lost the symbiote. There was something that happened where he was attacked or like with sound waves or something like that, and it pulled away from him. And when it got away, he couldn't find it, and it just kind of ran off and found its way to another host. And this guy was a nut job. But once Eddie Brock found out about it, that it had come back, he went and searched for it. Now, he had lost it at some point and actually was attached to a separate symbiote, which was known as Toxin.
Gotcha.
But he never had that same bond with it. So when he saw that the Venom symbiote had come back, he wanted to go reattach himself.
Toxin, was that the white symbiote?
Yes, kind of almost like an anti-venom.
Yeah.
I think that's actually what they called it originally, and they changed it to Toxin.
Gotcha. That which makes sense. Toxin being what people mostly confuse Venom with. They're talk about the poison animal, and it's the main Venom instead of Toxin. I digress.
It's okay. But he goes there and he lost it. Eddie goes back in search of it. He finds this psychopath. I mean, pretty much who was attached to the Venom symbiote. It was odd. I can't remember his name right offhand, but he actually was able to kind of control the symbiote in a way that no one else really could. He was like, "You're going to listen to me, not the other way around." You got it? And the symbiote was like, "Okay,
all right, dude, chill."
But this could also be from part of his purification program. He wasn't quite used to this.
Yeah.
Depending on how you want to look at it. Anyway, Eddie gets it back, and he even kind of talked to. He's like, "You're going to listen to me. We're going to work together. We've been a part of one another at one point, and there was someone who was willing to out them. Like he knew about them. I think it was a priest, if I'm not mistaken, because I think Eddie Brock is Catholic. So he went to the priest and was like, "Hey, I've got this person back in my life. I don't know if they're right for me." Obviously, you can kind of see the parallels that he's kind of writing out there. But he's like, this person's bad for me, but I need them in my life. And the priest is like, "Well, if you feel like that they're a burden on you, you need to cast it out." The symbiote
Never listen to a priest.
took it upon itself to take Eddie in his sleep and kill the priest.
Oh, well, that's
because the way he looked at it, he's like, "No, we are one. We do not need to be taken. This was a threat for us." And if you don't know that, that's another way that Venom talks. He talks in kind of a third person. It's always we and us. It's never I.
Being a race of symbiotes, that makes sense.
And what's interesting about that is if you don't know about Carnage, he speaks in the first person.
Does he really?
He does. Because he bonded so perfectly with that symbiote that they are simply one.
Oh, snap. That's cool.
Yeah. And
That's
his
cool.
is a very mad symbiote, which, again, in the comics was an offspring of Venom, which was a mad symbiote at the time, but things changed.
Yeah.
But he was like the perfect host for that mad symbiote.
Cool. Good to know.
But no, I mean, I'm interested in the movie. I'm curious to see how it goes.
If they take it far enough.
I'm still kind of like, I want to see. I feel like seeing Tom Holland in the movie just says to me, hey, this is connected to the Marvel Universe. Even ever so slightly, it's still there.
Yeah.
And that's what I need, because I feel like yet another one of these cinematic universes is just, we don't need. Let's talk about that. Okay, while we're on the subject of cinematic universes, because this is actually a topic that someone had brought up recently on probably another podcast I listened to. How many have actually tried and failed? But yet Marvel started it, obviously. But I think the reason they succeeded is because they had a plan.
Yeah.
Infinity War was what they were aiming for.
The end goal.
Yeah, they said, we want to get here. How do we get here? It wasn't, okay, let's try to get there as fast as we can. It's like, no, look, we have to build upon this like you do a comic book.
We have to introduce the right characters.
Yes.
The right storylines. Hey, this thing that we talked about in the first movie, hey, it's coming into fruition now.
And it's almost like they knew, I mean, we have to get there at some point, but we're not going to rush it. Because I'll be honest with you, after the first Avengers, I expected Thanos to be the next step.
Really?
For whatever, because obviously they ended with the movie with him, so it was like, okay, so we're going to get Thanos next. But they didn't. They subverted those expectations. They went to Ultron. Him. So for me, that was like, okay, they know what they're doing. So they're
building up to something big.
And it was a good thing they did, because if they didn't, look at all the characters we would not have had in that movie.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, you needed that time. You needed 10 years to build to that movie.
Not to mention that also gave them the time to actually get the rights back to their original characters that they'd sold to Fox and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And they introduced the Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet actually gives them the perfect excuse to incorporate those other entities back into their cinematic universe or into their cinematic. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. But I mean, even with that said, I mean, why is it so hard to understand how they got it right? Because they've never rushed things.
Yeah.
Everything has been pre-planned. And even in the comic sense, the way I understand the way they do this, I've heard that Marvel goes on retreats where you'll have a bunch of writers just sitting around in like a cabin and they're just pitching ideas.
Oh, that's cool.
So they just, they might not have anything in mind, like set in stone at that point. But they just have an idea knocking around in the head like, hey.
They have an end goal.
Yeah, they're like, what if we do this with Spider-Man? Or, hey,
like,
what if we do this?
Somebody's be like, hell yeah, but we could build off of that to go over here with Venom or with...
And I feel like that's why all their stories work so well. And I'm not saying DC doesn't do that as far as comics are concerned, but with their movies...
They're very disjointed. Each one seems to be like its own universe.
They rushed the Justice League movie. I really feel like they did because
it had potential to be so good.
It did,
and it wasn't an awful movie.
No,
it just wasn't a great Justice League movie.
That's the problem with a lot of their movies is that they're not bad, but they're not great.
Yeah,
they're just outside. We'll say of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Wonder Woman was fantastic.
Wonder Woman was fantastic. But every other movie, it just feels like there just needed to be something else. Man of Steel, it needed to be more Superman.
Yeah, not
more
so.
Superman in the sense that, I mean, it's
symbol of justice, symbol of hope.
Yes, because I'll say this about the movie: I love it and I hate it at the same time. There are things I love about it.
He makes a great Superman.
He does, and there are elements to it that I can agree with. That I can be like, yes, I kind of get where you're coming with that, so I can kind of back that up. But then there are other elements to it that just make me so angry, and I'm like, why? Like, for example, I know this is a point of contention for a lot of people with Man of Steel, is the fact that he kills Zod. I was actually okay with that for the simple fact that, granted, I can agree that he could have easily done something else with Zod in that moment. I agree. Because others, why didn't you just put your hand over his eyes or whatever, because he was going to kill these kids or this family.
We don't know how, and he doesn't know how the beam would affect his hands.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know if that would have done anything.
Exactly.
To be fair.
But in that moment, Superman did something that he had never done. And I feel like at that point to say, I killed someone, you're essentially saying, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I did it. I hate it. I don't like how it makes me feel. I'm never going to do that again. So I kind of feel like that gives him a real reason
to not kill anybody.
Exactly.
And they just...
Yeah, and there was never any kind of build off of that. Because I feel like that was an important growth moment for that character to say, I mean, you saw how it affected him in that moment. Okay, build from that. Say, I can't do it. So put him in that position to where it's like, you have to kill this guy. And he's like, I can't. For Batman, when people ask, don't kill the Joker, he needed that moment to where he's killed somebody. He was like, I can't do it. I just can't. I don't like how it made me feel. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. So at least in that point, you can understand why Batman just cannot bring himself to be that guy when everyone will tell you, just kill the Joker.
Guy. Yeah.
You know? So, I don't know. But I agree. Wonder Woman was good, but you know what I think helped Wonder Woman is it stayed so far the hell away from all the other movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they never introduced. I felt like an introduction to the Flash would have been nice.
Yeah,
Introduction
something more
to
than just
Cyborg would have been nice. Because they think about Cyborg. Spoilers, by the way. I think that should have been a given at this point. But Cyborg had jack shit.
I know. He was just
like, hey, you're a cyborg.
It was like, oh, he's good with electronics.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, how did you get made? And it was just, we had to kind of assume we knew all of his backstory, which I found out actually was cut from the movie.
Really?
So there was a whole backstory. Because if you actually take a look at some of the trailers, like the early trailers, you saw him as, non-cyborg, football star, college. Where was that? I need to know about Cyborg. You just kind of left me hanging here. It's like, hey, here he is.
Hey, here's this robot guy. Mm-hmm. Have fun with that.
And obviously we should have known about the Flash, but again, I felt like just some understanding of this particular Flash would have been nice.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I can also understand what they were going for. I mean, the whole, at this point in the kind of culture that we have today, most people who are going to be seeing this movie know who these characters are. They've seen at least the CW shows, may have seen a cartoon or two growing up. They know who these characters are. It's like just common cultural knowledge.
Sure.
So I can understand why they would think that, we don't necessarily have to flesh out these characters. But at the same time, I do agree with you. They needed to have more for these particular characters than...
Because, I mean, you can take a look at what the Marvel Universe did with the Avengers. Each character had their own movie, with the exception of Hawkeye and Black Widow, but
they were introduced in other movies that other characters were introduced in.
Right. I mean, Black Widow had Iron Man 2. Hawkeye essentially had this
Thor.
movie. I mean, he was introduced there, but he didn't really have more of a role other than just kind of being there for a moment. But Avengers was kind of like his introduction as a whole.
Gotcha.
You were kind of getting to know him
as
a little bit more.
fully fleshed character.
Right. And then they kind of even rectified that even further in part 2, where he actually got to shine more, where you got to really know him because he had a family and stuff like that. So it was nice to actually get to know that character more. They understood we didn't give him a lot of time because there are other characters to really focus on, but we do want to shine a lot on him.
We do want to show you that,
Yeah, there's more to him than just the guy with the bow and arrow. So, but I mean, in all fairness with that movie, I mean, it was a little hard to already go ahead and introduce new characters because you had all these existing characters you've introduced prior that you're getting together in one movie. You kind of need to stick with those because those are the people that everyone came to see. And no offense to Hawkeye, by no means. I want to see him again. He wasn't in Infinity War, spoilers, but I mean, you didn't see him in any of the... Well, you didn't see him in any of the promo art, did you?
No.
So, I don't feel like that's a big spoiler. But, again, it's... They eventually took the time to say, hey, he is an important character. We're going to showcase him later on. And they did. He doesn't get his own movie, but he's not as big as some of the other characters. He's a fan favorite, and that's why people get like, well, where's Hawkeye? Where's he at? And they get pissy. But it's fair enough.
Yeah.
But again, they did it properly. They did it there. With Justice League, there's just so much wrong that I just feel like they could have gotten so right. And don't get me started on the mustache debacle.
Oh, God. Oh, that was so bad.
His face not look
His face looked like Emma Watson's voice sounded in Beauty and the Beast. That's all I'm going to say.
It's terrible.
His face was auto-tuned.
For the record, okay, I just want to say this. Now, granted, if you're not familiar with this, I'm going to kind of break it down as quick as I can. There were reshoots that needed to happen on Justice League. Henry Cavill, who plays Superman, he was filming Mission Impossible 6 at the time, and he had a mustache and some stubble. Well, when the studios, Paramount and Warner Brothers, had to kind of come to an agreement, it's like, hey, we need him back for reshoots. Paramount would not budge on the mustache. They said, no, he needs the mustache. And they were just like, but why? And it's like, well, he needs the mustache. It's got to stay. So they refused to let him shave the mustache. So Warner Brothers had to have him film his re-recorded footage with this mustache as Superman. So they decided to digitally remove the mustache, as opposed to what would have been more ideal than just let him have a damn beard. Okay?
Yeah.
He's been dead.
But his body's been still alive. Even normal humans, after we die, our hair keeps growing for a while.
Yes.
Why not give him a beard?
Yes. I don't feel like it was just going to be so jarring that Superman had a beard. When the sequel comes around, shave it. Fine. But he just rose from the grave. Let him have a damn beard and long hair, for Christ's sake. It's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
At least you wouldn't have had the stupid looking face, because every time I looked at him, I couldn't stand it. It was just like every time I just rolled my eyes going, my God, why? Why? And I wanted to love it so much. You know, I wanted to see Superman and be like, please no CGI. Please no CGI. And then he'd start talking. I'm like, damn it. Every time. There was maybe one or two scenes where it was not CGI. I was like, thank God. Finally.
Usually that's when they're filming from the back of his head.
But if you want to see how bad it is, all you got to do is watch the very beginning of the movie, and you already know what you're actually looking forward to, and it's just, oh my God, it makes you.
It's like he was trying to bite his upper lip, but he was trying not to. It's like he had his twitch where he wanted to bite his upper lip. He was trying not to the whole movie. It was
such
just
a
the way
hack
it was.
job.
Oh, it was awful. I just can't even.
No, I can't even either, because it's just like, what were you thinking? So anyway, but that's a whole nother thing. I don't even know what they're doing anymore. From what I've heard, they've actually abandoned it.
Really?
Like, they're actually looking to just say, you know what? We did separate universe movies, Superman and Batman, all on their own before. Let's just go back to that. Screw it. We're not going to do this shared universe crap anymore.
Good God.
I don't know if that's the case. There's a lot of rumors going around. I don't know if you've seen set footage or set photos of Shazam.
I haven't.
I'll have to show those to you. Zachary Levi, the guy who played Chuck.
Yeah.
He's playing Shazam.
Really?
He looks phenomenal.
Really? Yeah. I've heard this. I haven't actually seen any of the pictures, but I heard he got ripped for the role.
Yeah.
Man.
People were looking at his costume and saying, like calling him out, saying, well, you look like you got like padded and shit. So he went on Twitter and like ripped up an arm and he was like, does that look padded to you? And I was like, yeah, boy. Good job.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I loved him as Chuck, and I feel like, you know how he had that kind of childlike wonderment in Chuck?
Yeah.
Where he was just so simple-minded. Well, I don't want to say simple-minded, but just it
Innocent.
was an innocent.
Innocent.
Yeah, innocence to him. That's why I feel like he'll be perfect for this role, because he can do that. He can have, I mean, this is supposed to be a kid who became a superhero, like a full-grown superhero. So you still have to have that mentality.
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing this 10
Larger
to
than
14-year-old
life.
kid,
Yeah.
but as a superhero. So he's going to be all giddy and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it!" And he'll do it so perfectly.
But at the same time, did you ever watch the reboot they did of Heroes that only lasted one season?
I did not.
He was in that, and he was
Really?
actually not a great person at the beginning of it. So you could actually see him doing the darker side of the aspect. So I think that was also good for him for a superhero role, because you're actually going to be able to see him get to the more emotional, less as innocent as like you were talking about. You can see both aspects from him, and it's nice to be able to see an actor who can actually embody both parts.
Yeah. Now, what I find interesting about it, from what I've heard of Shazam, is obviously his opposite alter or what do you call it, like his dark opposite, so to speak, like we were talking about earlier, is Black Adam, because he's the darker version of Shazam, and he, which I find to be hilarious, was The Rock had been cast as Black Adam, but he had been cast years before now, and from what I know, he's not even in the damn movie. It's like Warner Brothers signed him on. Hey, you're going to be Black Adam, but we don't know when. And he's just been waiting for his time.
In the meantime, he's gotten more and more popular. So guess what? They're gonna pay him more and more money.
Exactly. I mean, he's been psyched for. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna be Black Adam someday, anytime. And Warner Brothers was like, yeah, hang on a second. So I mean, you feel like that would have been the proper time, but I've not heard anything about him being in that movie.
Man.
I'm trying to remember who they said the villain was. I know the actor who's playing him. It's Mark Strong. He's the guy that played Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie.
Oh, yeah?
But I
he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor. I just can't remember who he's playing. It's like the name is right there on the tip of my tongue, and I can't speak it. Like Dr. Sylvia or something. I don't know. I'm trying.
Dr. Sylvia Mama.
That's who it was. But he looks great. I'm kind of excited to see what they go with it. And from what I've heard, it's still going to be part of this universe that they have. But again, I've heard that they have been thinking of new movies that have jack shit to do with the other universe. So it's just like they don't care anymore. They're just like, I don't, just get on with it.
Oh,
and
it's terrible.
Like, did you ever see what happened with Universal's failed attempt?
No.
Well, they were trying.
I didn't even know they did Tempted.
They went balls out, okay?
Really?
So the Mummy reboot, right?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the start of this big monster movie universe.
Yeah.
Connection.
Oh, yeah.
But they had the audacity to start the movie saying, Dark Universe. Like they had it planned. Like this is going to be the biggest thing ever. And then the Mummy tanked, and they were just like, oh shit.
Well, that's not...
And they just kind of was like, okay, well, we're just going to forget this ever happened. And just sweep it under the rug. Because from what I've heard, I've not seen it. I don't want to see it. I heard it was terrible. And like
I love the originals, the ones with Brendan.
I did.
guess they're not the originals, but the Brendan Fraser mummies. They were great. They were fun. They were my generation's mummy.
I would say I like the first one, and then they just kind of went downhill.
Yeah,
because
especially when the Rock started coming in as the Scorpion King.
Jesus, talk about bad CGI.
Yeah,
before they actually figured it out, that was just.
Although, as sad as it is to say, the Rock versions of the Mummy were still better than when they introduced Jet Li.
That's true. So it just all right. The original Mummy was fun. I can agree to that. So, but this one apparently made no sense. And instead of telling a story that was just self-contained, they shoehorned every element they could into the story to say like, we're building something here, so just get it all in there so you can be like, I know what he's talking about. I know what he's talking about. Because Russell Crowe, I think, played Dr. Jekyll.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow.
So he was already there, and he was supposed to be like the Nick Fury of this dark universe. I was like, why?
If you're gonna rip off Marvel's movie system, at least rip it off right.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. They didn't introduce every character in Iron Man. Mm-hmm. They introduced Iron Man and then teased something.
Yes, and that's what they all did best. Every movie told the story of that character and then just said, here's a tease for the next one. Infinity War did that, okay? Bro, the end credits. That's what it...
No. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I'm just saying, the end credits, like they always do that last little bit, it's teasing something for later. And you can be like, oh.
And it's one little line. Just one line that just makes you go, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Nick Fury first came in and he was like, we're putting a team together. That's all he had to say.
The Avengers Initiative, and you're like, gasp! And you're just wondering when it's going to happen. And they wait, what?
Gasp!
2 years? 10 years? No, it was not 10 years. I don't remember.
That might be 10 years, though.
It was 2008 when Iron Man came out. So it was 4 years.
Good
before.
Lord.
Yeah, think about that.
Man. Now they're popping out 3 of those a year.
3 a year. I actually started thinking about that the other day because it was like, all right, we had Black Panther. We just got an Infinity War. And then we got Ant-Man versus the Wasp, or Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
And for some reason I was thinking, there's got to be another one later in the year. And I was like, no, that's 3. That covers it. So I was like, well, where's it at? I got confused for a moment. But it's fine.
Yeah, I hear they're making like 13 movies between now and 2023.
From what I hear, yeah. Like they've... For the record, I think you'd mentioned earlier the Fox deal that they did.
Yeah.
There was actually something that came out about that where they were, everybody's asking, it's like, when are you going to introduce the X-Men? When are you going to do the Fantastic Four? Granted, Marvel has already, in the comics, planned for the Fantastic Four's return. I guess it's like the moment that deal went through, they're like, hey, guess who's coming back to the comics? Fantastic Four,
that's
baby!
Fantastic.
So
that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell a little story for anybody who's uneducated about it, might not know. There's no truth to it as far as stories. Like there's nobody has come out and said it outright, but you cannot tell me there's not some truth to it. At some point, Marvel decided to shelf the Fantastic Four. Just said, we're not going to make any more comics for them. And I think this is about the time that the last movie tanked.
Oh God!
They just like, you know what? Just we're gonna put them down for a while. And it's been a while. I can't remember how long it's been, but it's been a while. So it was like after the Secret Wars, big event that they did, which that could be a great movie.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm sure it'll happen at some point. But they'll, they said, all right, the Fantastic Four is off the board. Reed Richards and Sue Storm, they went off into who knows where the hell, along with their kids. If you don't know they had kids, they got kids.
Yeah.
And
I have kids. God.
The Thing stayed behind. I think he actually joined the Guardians of the Galaxy temporarily, and then he
did, didn't he?
Mm-hmm, and then he joined S.H.I.E.L.D. after Civil War II, I believe. And then Johnny Storm had joined the Inhumans because he was having a thing with Medusa.
Really?
Yeah. Black Bolt was not too keen on it.
Happy about that. Yeah, I'd imagine that.
But again, they're coming back, and the team they got behind it, it's got me excited. I've never been big on the Fantastic Four, like reading their comics, but I'm happy. The team they have set to do it is, I'm excited. Dan Slott is the writer for the comic. He's been doing Spider-Man like right before, like he was responsible for the Superior Spider-Man run, where Doc Ock became Spider-Man, so to speak. So he'd been writing like before that. He's created so many great arcs, and he's actually just ended or about to end his run on Spider-Man Now, where he's reintroduced Norman Osborn as a Goblin, but not as the Green Goblin, but the Red Goblin.
Really?
And that is the Green Goblin fused with the Carnage symbiote.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. So
good God.
I can't wait to see how that plays out. But I mean, this is a guy who made, he killed Peter Parker for like 32 issues, and made Otto Octavius Spider-Man, and then he reintroduced him and then gave him Parker Industries, made him a billionaire, and then made that shit sink. So I mean, he's done some fantastic work on the books.
Not a bad career path, high school teacher to millionaire.
Yeah. So he's done some interesting stuff with the book. I'm a fan of his because as mad as a lot of people got with the Superior Spider-Man stories, I felt like it was a great divergent. You know, it was just something different because he really built up Otto Octavius's hubris in a way where he was just, I'm the superior Spider-Man here, you know. And even when he got moved out, and granted they brought him back eventually as in a whole nother light, he's still so arrogant about it. He's like, I'm you know, the greater one, not you. It's like, dude, come on, get over yourself, for crying out loud. But he's going to be writing the Fantastic Four, and Sarah Pichelli is the artist. She did, if I'm not mistaken, she did some of the run on Ultimate Spider-Man after Mark Bagley, who originated Ultimate Spider-Man with Brian Michael Bendis. She's a great artist. I'm happy to see what she's got bringing to the table. I think she's done some Spider-Man work before, but she's a great artist. I love her work. Yeah. So I feel like that's a good team. I'd love to see what they bring to it. I have no doubt Dan Slott's got whatever he pitched. I've heard that story. They said, yes, do it, you know, and that's why they're bringing him back.
Yeah. Man.
So I'm excited to see where they go with that.
Can I just say, if Disney decides to make another Fantastic Four movie, can we please not have another origin story?
I'm gonna say I disagree, only because I have an idea. I actually pitched this the other day.
Please convince me, because at this point, I am so tired of seeing the Fantastic Four's origin. Because guess what? We all know how they came about.
Well, it's the same with Spider-Man. I think what happened is a lot of people got that fatigue where it was just like, okay, we've had how many Spider-Man movies within a certain period of time, and we've seen Uncle Ben get shot how many times?
Of course. Like how many times have we seen Batman's parents die?
Exactly. We've seen that more than enough times. Yeah. At least we've only seen Uncle Ben shot twice.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, so here's my idea. And I pitched this the other day. I feel like it would be a great introduction to these characters. It depends on how they want to do it. And after I actually thought about it, there's a variation on it that I could see, and it could still work. There could also be a lot of nods and callbacks to the Fantastic Four, the original comics. So utilize the Ultimate Universe version of the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. They're young kids. They're part of a think tank where they're trying to come up with new ideas and stuff like that, and that's where Reed Richards comes up with the idea for the I think it was like a dimensional barrier where he learns that there are multiple dimensions, and of course that could open up so many possibilities for the movies. So he's testing this or trying to figure out this, and where this think tank comes from is one of two places. Either Tony Stark develops it to come up with, to teach brighter minds to come up with ideas to prevent Thanos-like events, or you can build off the back of Black Panther. Have you seen Black Panther?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Where he started that facility in Oakland.
Yeah.
So you're building off the back of that, and that's part of where this think tank comes from. So either T'Challa or Tony Stark are responsible for a think tank for these young children.
Yeah.
And I think this would be a nice little nod to the comics. You call it the Future Foundation, which is something that Reed Richards called his offshoot of the Fantastic Four for young minds, like his children, and so on.
Yeah. What I was thinking a good way to introduce them and the properties that were brought over from Fox would be at the end of the second Infinity War. Have Thanos win. Have Thanos destroy the universe, but have like Adam Warlock get the Infinity Gauntlet just before he is wiped out, so that he's alone in this empty void that was the universe. And when that happens, when he gets control of the gauntlet, have an interdimensional door open up and have him meet the Council of Reeds.
Nice.
And actually have the Council of Reeds there help him use the gauntlet to reset up the universe, which would help introduce all of the Fox properties, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, help introduce them into the main Marvel MCU.
Right.
And just have that all set up and just be like, okay, well, these new people are here. They're going to help. We've brought them in, like from the other universes to help protect this one from other entities like Galactus or what have you.
You're right. Well, I mean, it could easily work. The only issue that I would see with that is, from what I've heard, and I don't know where this is going to come into play, but they've said it'll probably be at the earliest phase 5 of their movies that they would even have an opportunity to introduce them, because whatever they have planned out for phase 4 is already kind of set in motion. Gotcha. So they don't want to disrupt that. And I understand that.
Yeah.
Because I think the deal still has to kind of be finalized, and I don't know. There's a whole lot of legalities that I'm not familiar with. But, so I kind of understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I want to see these characters come into play, because for me, if you're going to do another 3-phase set, which, if you think about that, man, that'll be 10 more years, hypothetically. So it'll be 50 years old, or pushing 50 by the time this happens.
I can see myself now with a walker shuffling my way into the movie theater. I'm here to see the new Infinity War.
Can't wait for this. This is the greatest thing ever. But I mean, if you're doing another, 10 phase or 3 phases, whatever the hell, I was really thinking, and again, they may have their ideas set in motion. I would assume they already do. Like, they already know which way they're going.
Yeah.
But would not Doctor Doom be the best big bad villain to be the next in line, like Thanos?
Yes.
Because if you even take, like what I mentioned earlier, the Secret War idea, the dude became a god. Because he just said, you know what? The creators of the universe, screw you. I'm taking your power. Yeah. And you're like, what are you talking about? You're taking their power. No, I'm taking your power. I'm taking everything, and I'm recreating everything. So screw you. No. And he figured it out. That to me would be, I mean, not to dismiss what Thanos is doing, because what he did in the movie was okay. But I mean, come on. You need that. If you're going to go that route and tell another 3-phase story in 10 years like that, you need another big event that's just going to be like, whoa. Yeah. That tops that or is equal to that. So that needs to be your big swan song for the next 3 phases. Yeah. I think Doctor Doom would be perfect. But I've even thought beyond that, like, what other big villains could we have?
No.
Because Thanos is huge, Doctor Doom is huge.
Galactus would be a good one.
Yes.
I mean, you could actually have the Silver Surfer come in and warn them about it. Dude. Hell, have Beta Ray Bill come in at some point.
That's the big. Oh, dude, that's the story where Galactus comes to feed on. Make that an event.
Yeah, make that the new Thanos. Just have it be like, holy crap, this world destroyer is coming.
But think about it. Now they have to build up the suspense of that a hell of a lot more than the Fantastic Four movie did. Yeah. Because it was just like, hey, he's coming.
Ooh, the way they could do it is at the end of one of their big movies, and when they start introducing the new one, actually have it be on a planet of surfers, of the silver people, like Silver Surfer. And actually have it be like them living their lives, and all of a sudden the skies grow dark, and this one guy, he's like there with his family, and he looks up, and there's just this red purple cloud coming over the planet. We're gonna just shut off there.
Is Galactus going to be a cloud again, or is he actually going to be a physical?
Well, no, the cloud could just be the precursor to him actually showing up. It could be the dust cloud from his whatever of him slowing down.
Because that pissed a lot of people off.
I know.
Galactus was a damn cloud. A storm cloud. Fuck that.
Oh, okay. So even better, have the shadow come up, and then a shot up back from the earth, from the planet, and it's just the shadow of his head.
Yeah.
Just as he's so huge, he casts his shadow over this fucking planet. Sorry,
like
language. Over this planet.
I said a bad word. It's fine. But
you can tell when we get excited.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the Celestial stuff like that. I mean, they kind of introduced them in Guardians.
Yeah, they introduced them a little bit.
Kind of winked and nodded and said, "Well, I mean, Ego was a Celestial."
Hell, they've mentioned the Living Tribunal and in Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like, and if you want to go into like some deep,
Ant-Man.
Yes, Eternity was kind of vaguely seen.
Yes,
that's what they said. So they're there, and I want to say this. No spoilers. I'm kind of hoping we see them in the next Avengers flick.
No.
I'm just going to say that with no context whatsoever. Because
it's a non-spoiler spoiler.
Yeah, because I can see how they could be involved, maybe, but at the same time, I don't know what direction they're going with the next Avengers movie.
Yeah.
So it's up in the air. I'd love to see that.
I would love, while Thanos is still the main bad, I would love to see Lady Death. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I would love to see the entire reason that Thanos is collecting the damn Infinity Stones actually represented in the movies.
Can I? Non-spoiler. Spoiler. I just no.
I'm going to see it regardless.
Yeah. No. I'll say this as vague as I can. They do actually lay out his plan in the movie, and it does make sense. I mean, for the context in which you're doing.
Yeah.
Without Lady Death.
Really?
I'll just say that. But, I mean, as a fan of the Infinity Gauntlet story, I was okay with it. I was like, okay,
gotcha.
you got the essence of what he was doing, but you gave purpose behind it.
More than just he's lovesick.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So, in a way, you can just
a better reason for him to kill half of the people in the universe.
Exactly.
Then he's got the hots for this lady.
Yeah. So when you hear it, when you see it, you're like, I kind of get what you're saying, but I don't really agree. So, because you don't want to see people die.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, okay, I kind of get what you're saying.
No.
He's a villain that you just love to hate, I guess, at the same time. But, I mean, that's all I'm going to say. But, in essence, another thing that you were talking about, and I was actually surprised at this, and again, I don't feel like this is spoiler material because she was not seen in the trailers or whatnot. And granted, I will say there are some surprises you don't see in the trailers, but this I don't feel like it's a spoiler. I was actually expecting in some aspect that we might have seen Hela from Thor Ragnarok.
Really?
Because in the comics, she and Thanos have recently become an item. And I thought, okay, so are they going to... Because she's the goddess of death, were they going to try and shoehorn her in as his love interest? Or
gotcha. As his MCU Lady Death.
Right. Because it almost seemed like, okay, I could see that happening, but it didn't happen. So I was like, okay, well, fair enough. And I think it would have been kind of an oddball shoehorn in.
Yeah.
Because again, I feel like the way they laid it out, it makes more sense for the narrative that they are telling. Gotcha. It's a hell of a lot more dramatic, other than, like you said, being lovesick.
Yeah.
So at least this time, when you're seeing what he's doing, the goals he's trying to accomplish, this is a man, well, a titan, trying to achieve a goal. He has this mission he has to complete, and he's going to do it. Period. So you can kind of respect that.
Yeah.
I guess.
I got you.
So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it so bad, but I'm going to do it.
Hopefully next time we get together, we'll be able to talk about it in more detail.
Absolutely. I feel like anybody I've talked to so far, I have not heard a bad thing about it. And I'm sure that there are people who can nitpick the shit out of it. And if you want to do that, fine. Be miserable. I sat down. When I got to the end of the movie, I'm going to say this, again, non-spoilerish or anything like that, but when the movie ended, I was just I don't even know. I couldn't speak. I was speechless. So I just sat there just like, what happened? Wow. And I just sat through the credits quietly, just waiting for that end credit, because I was like, this is too much.
Yeah.
But in a good way. It was just like, I
gotcha.
Cannot believe what I just witnessed.
Oh, man.
It was just amazing. So, and I'll continue to talk it up because I loved it so much. I've seen it twice now.
Nice.
Okay, I had to go see it again. I was just like, I need to go see it to see if it's going to have that same impact and see if anything is going to change for me. It didn't, because I felt like the first time in, there was a lot of shock, like things that I wasn't expecting, and it was just when something happened, there were at least 2 times in that entire movie, from start to finish, that I actually left my seat for a moment, like, oh shit, like, because I didn't expect it. You know, it was like, oh my god, and this is why I will continue to enforce no spoilers.
Yeah.
Do not spoil this movie. If someone, just ask them flat out, have you seen it, George? Have you seen it?
No.
No. Then you know what? I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm not going to say anything that I feel like will spoil this movie for you at all. If there's a clip out there online or something like that that you can watch, then you can technically say, well, it's not really a spoiler. Fair enough. But still, I don't want to take that away from you.
Yeah.
You know, I know what footage I saw on television that made it into the movie, but there was a lot that didn't.
Yeah. And from all those fans out there who don't have the time to go see this stuff because, you know, we're adults at this point, thank you.
Yeah. Because, and you know, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and she was telling me that some jackass spoiled the movie for her because he wanted to talk about it with everybody in her job or whatever, and it's like, come on, dude, just at least ask, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Okay, I'm going to talk about it. You not seen it? All right, well then I won't say anything. No. Take it after work or whatever. Don't spoil it for everybody else who might want to see it. And I even saw some arguments. Well, spoilers don't ruin movies.
They do.
There's a reason some people don't want to have it spoiled, because they want to have that enjoyment of the narrative being told to them in a way that they don't expect.
Yeah.
You know, if I went in, like I said, I've read Infinity Gauntlet, all issues. I know how the story goes down in that book. But if they told that story scene for scene, same like The Walking Dead, I'll say that because, you know, I've read every issue of that to date. And if the show did everything like that, panel for panel, scene for scene, I'm not going to be surprised. So when they change something up, I don't mind it, because I'm like, you surprised me. Awesome. Thank you. Gotcha. Because I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So when these changes don't bother me all that much, because I like being surprised.
And that's one thing that the MCU actually has going for it, is that they can change basically whatever they want as long as they stick to the basic story structure. Mm-hmm. Because the comics themselves already have a multiverse system built into it. So you could, I mean, they have a world populated by sentient monkeys that have all of these same powers and personality traits.
Monkey.
Spider monkey. When he does poop, it's quite funky. Anywho, it's terrible.
You said.
Yeah, I tell bad jokes. Yay. But they've already got the multiverse set up. So the way I view it is the cinematic universe is simply a separate alternate universe from the main storylines. It's not Earth 6-1, whatever way that's DC, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, Marvel has like an extensive.
They have, but I'm saying the numbering system is.
Well, yeah.
DC
I mean,
system.
DC has their. From what I know of them, they have 53 Earths. Hypothetically, that's all that there is. There might be more in the comics that I'm unaware of, because I don't really follow them as much as I do Marvel. Yeah. I do love DC, so if there's anybody out there who's going, you hate DC, you Marvel shill or whatever. No, I do love DC. Okay, their animated series,
fantastic.
Movies, God, love it. Did you know that they're redoing The Death of Superman?
Really?
They are. And they're actually breaking up into 2 movies this time.
Oh, thank goodness.
So it's going to be The Death of Superman, and then The Rebirth of Superman will be the sequel.
Gotcha.
So we might actually have the Eradicator and the Steel and Cyborg. I'd love to see that. Yeah. So I'm excited. So we're actually going to see a genuine throwdown with Doomsday.
Yeah, man. I would, with the new Flash that they have, because the guy that they cast to play the Flash in the Justice League movie, I thought he did a great job.
He did.
He was a good Flash. He had the cheeky personality. He had the quips, but he was still unused to being the Flash, so he wasn't as comfortable with it, which worked really well. I thought that the casting on him was really well.
But he does run like a schmuck.
He does run like a schmuck. He should definitely train.
Brown. His lanky, flapping arm.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But I would love for them to flesh out, to have a Flash movie with him, because I think that they could actually do really well.
Well, see, if they weren't planning on doing a Flashpoint movie, then I would be okay with that. But that's what I hear they're planning on.
Really?
And why go that route already?
I know. Make that like his third movie.
Yeah, don't rush it. That goes back to the whole Russian thing that they keep doing. Now, I keep hearing, while we're back on the subject of DC, that Aquaman had a trailer at CinemaCon this week, and it's looking pretty good. Which I didn't hate Aquaman. In fact, I don't hate Aquaman at all. I know that he gets a lot of shit for being he just talks to fish, but you know what?
Aquaman is badass.
Yeah, he's
a badass mofo.
If he's fleshed out properly, my favorite story of Aquaman, and this may have been told in the comics, but I don't recall. I didn't read the comics, but it was in a Justice League Unlimited, I think, or it might have been just regular Justice League. I don't remember. They introduced Aquaman, and there was a coup happening in Atlantis, and one of his trusted soldiers, so to speak, was trying to take over. He hooked Aquaman and his kid to a rock.
Yeah.
Okay, and then blasted it, and it was sliding down into abyss.
Story.
Aquaman is sitting there. His kid's crying, and this is an infant, okay? Keep that in mind. So his infant son is sitting there crying, screaming, and he's just sitting there trying to break free to save his son, and he gets desperate. He doesn't know what else to do. So Aquaman he got one hand free. He took the emblem off of his belt, like a sharp A off of his belt, and he cuts his hand off to save his son. And when he gets back to the palace, his hand is wrapped up, bleeding, and he's got his son in his arms. And everybody's like, "You're crazy." And he's like, "I did what I had to do to save my child."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking,
like
Aquaman's a badass.
Badass.
You can't tell me that Aquaman is just some schmuck when he did something so badass.
Whenever anybody says that Jason Momoa is too badass, too sexy, or whatever to play Aquaman, I tell them that story because it's
a wonderful story.
It is.
So
it's a messed up story, but very well written.
But, and I hate to use this term, but as a father, I know that there's some people out there probably listening aren't a father, but if we were in that situation, we're fathers, we would do the same.
Oh yeah.
You don't want anything to happen to your kids, so you're going to do whatever it is. And I don't really feel like that just relates to being a father. Your loved one, your spouse. You tell me you're not in that position and they're fighting for their life, you're going to do whatever you can to save them. I would hope.
Yeah, so would they.
But where were we? What were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about multiverses. We got way off track.
Wow. That was way off track.
Yeah, but no, you were talking about DC has 52, 53 Earths or whatever.
No.
From what I know, and then in the Marvel universe, they have infinite numbers. Like when they did the Spider-Verse, they had so many Spider-Men, and it was just like Spider-Man from Earth 60523, and it's like, okay. So it's just whatever, you know. Yeah. But from if you're unfamiliar with the Marvel universe and their Earth system, Earth of the regular regular comic Marvel universe is Earth 616. So if you ever see that reference 616, that is a reference to the Marvel Comics universe. And then I think the Ultimate Universe that they had for a time, which I think might be making a comeback.
Really?
I don't know that for sure. Maybe. That was Earth 1610. I'm almost positive of that. And from what I know of the MCU, I think that's Earth 1999.
Oh, wow.
But if I'm wrong, hey, you can comment and correct me. But I'm just, from what I can recall of my memory, it's a little late, and I may have had a beer or two. But yeah, I mean, the multiverse idea is interesting to me. I've always been kind of fascinated with it, but as long as it's not taken to such a degree that it just kind of, I don't know, like what they did with the Ultimate Universe. What I loved about that in the Marvel Comics is the fact that they said, okay, this is like a retelling of these characters, but we're going to go our direction. It doesn't have to be complete recreations of what they did prior, because when they did Spider-Man, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they were younger, they were hipper, so to speak.
Yeah.
Peter was a lot younger, and Mary Jane found out about him being Spider-Man pretty early on. Him and Eddie Brock were actually childhood friends, and their fathers actually created the Venom symbiote, but it was like a science experiment that was supposed to be like some suit for the military that they were designing, and it just kind of went awry. And then the Carnage symbiote was an offshoot of that. I can't remember how that was particularly designed, but I feel like that it was patterned off of Peter's DNA.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't Cletus, it was Peter.
Gotcha.
And that was kind of an interesting twist.
Huh.
And it actually tried to kill Gwen Stacy as opposed to the Green Goblin. And I say tried because I think she actually did die and then came back. So,
Yeah.
so take that as you will. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read the comics. But in the Ultimate Universe, and this is what I loved about that, is Peter Parker actually died.
Oh, wow.
And then that's where they introduced Miles Morales, who's like actually part of the MCU now.
Yeah.
In the comics. I should make sure I reference that correctly. The Marvel Comics universe. He's not part of the movies.
Yeah.
But
Yet.
Which is, hey, I'm down with it. I love Miles. He's actually a good addition to the Spider-Man family. I think because now you have Peter as an older, wiser Spider-Man, and then you've got Miles being what Peter used to be. Yeah. But the beauty of Miles is he doesn't have a lost parent.
He doesn't have those hookups, those hang-ups.
Exactly. He's just a kid who happens to have these powers, and even in his stories, he's got. Because I feel like they retcon this around the Secret Wars thing, because in the Ultimate Universe, I think his mom died at some point, and there was a whole lot of chaos. And then when they did the Secret Wars thing and merged the universes, his parents were alive.
Gotcha.
So in the comics now, his mom is alive, his dad is alive. His dad's actually an agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. His mom found out that he was Spider-Man. His father already knew, obviously, because they were kind of using him as kind of a whatnot. But his mom found out, and she's like, I hate that you lied to me about this, but I'm not going to stop you from doing it. And there's just this nice dynamic that this is a superhero who doesn't have, a dead parent or adult figure. He's just a kid who's
trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, and feels this obligation because he's Spider-Man now. Like,
and instead of like being shunned for what he's doing, he's got a family who's just like, you know what? We support you.
Yeah,
which is awesome because you don't see that very often in comics.
No, and there was actually a great scene in one of his books, and I think he was confronted by Luke Cage, and Luke was just talking to him. He's like, it was kind of almost like a learning moment. I cannot remember what kind of built on it. I feel like it was during the Civil War II business where there was a vision that came about that Miles Morales was going to kill Captain America. And everybody was like panicked about that. So Luke Cage told him, they were just having a moment or something like that. It's like, Spider-Man's a man of color now. It's like, you realize how important that is, right? That's a big responsibility. Don't mess this up.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I think that was even a great story that I remember hearing back, I think with Todd McFarlane about the time he created Spawn, is he always found Spider-Man to be one of those characters that any kid could imagine they could be. Yeah. Because you don't see skin color.
Yeah.
So any kid could imagine that he's Spider-Man. And he even said that there was a time he wanted to write a story where Spider-Man was like save some kind of rich yuppie or something like that in New York, and he's like, well, hey, thank you for taking care of that, and then you insert your racial epitaph or whatever, and kind of like that, and his, Spidey kind of jumps up in his face and is like, well, what color do you think I am under this mask?
Yeah.
And the guy's just like, freaks out, but obviously we know, but I think that's kind of it's good because things I've noticed with Marvel now is a lot of their characters have been shifting, where they've got new characters coming into play as these well-established characters.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of backgrounds and origins to them. And I've heard a lot of people bitch and complain. It's like, we don't need this person. But I think it's great.
Same here.
Because
the racial diversity, the gender diversity, like the female Thor.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, because it's, if you deserve it, you get the power. It doesn't matter what race, what gender, what creed you have. If you're worthy of the power, you get the power. Mm-hmm. I'm cool with it.
I'll tell you one story or one book that I've been reading that I've actually gotten really into, and I didn't know that I would get into it. Not that I have any kind of hang-ups or anything like that. I didn't know if it would be for me, but I thought I'd give it a shot, and that's Miss Marvel. And if you don't know right now, Miss Marvel is her name's Kamala Khan, and she's a Muslim girl, and she was an Inhuman. And what's fascinating about the book is they not just focus on her Inhuman powers. She can embiggen, which is a Simpsons term, which I love that they've coined for that. But they actually focus a lot on her Muslim lifestyle.
That's really
and they
cool.
teach you about that. Like if there's a term that they use that would be common conversation starters within, that culture, they'll actually define it for you just so you know what it is.
Oh, that's really cool.
So they're teaching you about this culture as you kind of read about it, and I'm like, that's great.
That is awesome.
So I really love that book. I mean, she's a fascinating character. She's one of those that I've been wanting. Granted, I feel like you need to have Captain Marvel first to kind of come in and kind of establish that.
Yeah.
And then she'd be like, oh, I'm a fan. I'm going to be Miss Marvel now.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of, I don't know how they're going to introduce her, because then you've got to introduce Inhumans. And they have done that, but just not in the movies. So we'll see how that goes. It's it's all connected. Is it really? I've actually been waiting. I'll say this, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The movie just came out. I want to know how they're going to connect.
That's a good point, because they were all about the connections.
And for the most part, every year they did like this loose little connection where it was like, okay, I can pass that.
Yeah,
like,
and all of the Netflix original shows, they'll talk about like the alien attack that hit New York,
incident.
the incident. Yeah, that's what they call it.
Which is such just call it the Battle of New York, for crying out loud. You know what it is.
Everybody knows what it is.
So, but I've actually been curious about that because, damn it, here we go to spoiler material. I can't do it. I'll just say this. Something happens in the movie. It would have to affect the show.
Yeah.
Have to. Okay, you cannot just be in passing going, oh, okay, it didn't affect you? Cool. No way. I've got to say that. I'm just gonna say that. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But when you see it and you don't watch the show, or do you watch the show regularly?
I haven't since actually the last episode that I watched. They introduced Ghost Rider.
Okay, so it's been about a season.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, I've stuck with it because I'm already in this far. By God, I'm just gonna stick with it. And for the most part, I'm just like, there's moments where you can be like, oh, that's a cool episode, and then other moments where you're like, Like right now, they're actually getting ready to introduce Gravitron. I don't know if you know who he is in the comics. So I've been waiting for that since season 1. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. But I don't know if they don't tie in that one thing. I'm at that point. I'm like, you know what? You lied. It's not connected at all anymore because it's just too big.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that this one thing did not affect you at all. Bull. Can't buy it.
God, I can't wait to see this movie.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I keep talking. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I can't help it. But hey, that's all I got. That's all I got to say about that. You got any more nerdy news you want to talk about? Anything? Because I feel like we've had a pretty good conversation. So
have I. It's been a blast.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on all night, I'm sure, but we're trying to hit a certain mark so we don't go on because like I said, we could talk all night, I'm sure.
And we've just talked about this one franchise so far.
We're
so many other things we could talk about.
We're all over the map. So maybe next time we'll be. But this is the first episode of Fandom Ultra 2000. I kind of hope you people have enjoyed what you've heard. If you do, make sure to follow us on Podbean or YouTube or Stitcher or wherever you're going to find everything on the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network. That's where you can find us. If you want to support this show or other shows that we do, you can go to patreon.com/Pencil and Paper Productions and do whatever you want to do over there. And maybe, hopefully, we'll give you some more perks to go along with it. I need to work on the perks, a little bit. I'm not saying they're bad, but I feel like, I could probably do better.
If we keep talking about perks, we're going to have to include some kind of coffee thing, just because.
That's right.
Percolating.
Coffee mugs. See?
Yes.
See, there you go. You might be able to get a coffee mug. I might promise you that at some point. So, anyway, guys, I'll stop babbling on because this is new, but I feel like we're on to something here. I hope that if you listen to the end of this, you feel like the same way. You're interested, you're intrigued, you want to hear more of this. Not that you're seeing it. You can't see it.
Well,
maybe you can. You can watch the bar going across the screen. But if you want to come back, check us out next time that we do this. This will probably be a semi-regular podcast. Maybe regular at some point. But,
hopefully regular pretty soon.
Yeah, we're not going to promise anything yet. We'll see how it goes. But let us know what you thought of the podcast. Let us know in comments wherever you listen to your podcast. Anyway, guys, I've been Stephen White.
George Willard.
Thank you so much for listening. Join us again next time. But until then, F you too.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.